Welcome back to Giving You More Than Numbers, the CAS Business Support Podcast. I'm Paul Barnes, and today we're talking about something many business owners avoid, the end. Not in a morbid way, but in a strategic way. Are you building a business that works without you, or have you built yourself a very demanding job? Today we're joined by Chris Dowen from MoreServ. Chris provides businesses with a platform to mitigate risk by helping business owners implement systems that allow it to run seamlessly without the owners needing to be all over everything. And joining Chris today is Karl Ward, Managing Director of ORS UK, Office Recycling Solutions, and Karl has previously built and sold a successful events business hosting large sporting lunches before moving into the commercial interior sector, where he acquired and grew ORS UK. Under Karl's leadership, ORS has expanded to 4 sites across the UK, supplying businesses with high-quality refurbished office furniture, while giving organisations a more cost-effective and sustainable alternative way to buying new. Welcome both.
Morning, Paul.
Karl, obviously that's quite a long intro for you.
Yes, it is.
But you have been there and done that in terms of both building a business from scratch and then exiting and then buying and actually, for being a glutton for punishment, going again.
Absolutely. I've since added another 2 sites since I saw you, Paul. So we now have a site in Sheffield, and also we have a site in Alfreton. So there's 6.
Wow.
6 sites as part of the business now within the group. And yes, I've been very lucky. I managed to sell a business at the age of 39 and acquired ORS probably 15 years ago, and thoroughly enjoy work, and I'm still enjoying work.
Okay, fabulous. So I'm going to pitch a little bit of a question, and please, because obviously, Karl, you're going to come at this from not necessarily been there, done that, but have built something and exited and then have built again. And Chris, obviously you're very much around actually how do you future-proof a business for that sale. So this question will probably get 2 different responses, but what is the difference between owning a job and owning a sellable business? And if we hit Karl with that first.
When I sold my sporting events business, I started it when I was 28 and sold it at the age of 39. The minute I sold it, the passion seemed to go away, and I found that it was my baby, but I'd passed it across to somebody else, and I felt really odd, being perfectly honest. It wasn't a job for me, it was more of a vocation, and I loved doing it, I loved working it. Every day was different, and I enjoyed the work and what I did. But the minute it was somebody else's, my passion for that business sort of disappeared overnight. And I found it an odd reaction from myself.
Yeah, so I think from that I would probably guess that whilst owning a sellable business is what that accidental end goal was, whilst it's not owning a job, it's owning something that is yours, where actually you have that passion and it isn't going to work in the loosest sense of the word to just pick up a paycheck at the end of the week.
No, it was definitely more than a job. I didn't look at it as a job. The day I started it, I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed every single day of what I did.
Yeah.
I never looked at it as hard work. It was more of a vocation, and I enjoyed every single minute of every single day, which I think I was very lucky. Not everybody has that feeling about what they do and what they and their job, but no, I haven't done a day's work in my own mind.
And I'd like to think that we're all probably like that, because not only are we sitting here on a podcast as a presenter and some guests, we're sitting here all as business owners that have built something that was probably our primary focus, and some of the other bits have just been a byproduct of. So Chris, if we think about an employee, they're not responsible for a lot of the systems and the processes that are put in place. But what, from an infrastructure perspective, would make somebody build a business that then has a tangible value?
Okay. So I'd like to go back to that point around vocation, because I think vocation is a really important thing for people to work through in terms of how they want to structure their business. So a lot of coaches, a lot of people tell you should grow your business to sell it. But Karl's a really good example of actually you could just have a job that's a business as a vocation for the rest of your life, really enjoy it, really be at the centre of it, and have things that work for you. You know, and then so you can, how you structure that business then is very much around that person who's that central talent. You build a structure that works for them. So it can be a little bit about understanding how things work day in, day out.
Yep.
So you just need enough then that if Karl can't work, who could pick up that and do that for them?
Yeah.
But I think the bigger bit, if you want to build your business, is you either bring people in who you can instill your passion into them. And one of the things I was thinking about on the way up here today is people strive to tell us to try and get us out of our business. Actually, if you can do it so your business runs without you, you can actually still stay in the business doing the things you love to do. So you could, you know, it doesn't mean you have to stop your vocation.
Yeah.
I think some people, it's an either or. They say to you, either got to grow and get out of it. I mean, I do specialist risk stuff for the public sector, for policing. I love doing that. So we're building our business so I can still do that, really specialise in it, and the other bit runs. So I think that bit is they've got to have the passion you have and understand the ethos of what you're trying to achieve.
And Karl, am I right in saying the events business was just you? You didn't actually employ directly people, you would bring people in just for the events?
I employed one person, so it was just me and this other person. And as you say, at every hotel, it was the hotel's employees that ran the dinner, serve the food and what have you. So yes, I was very lean. I was very lean. And I was a market leader in what I did. I mean, I started the business in 1991 and sold it in 2003. And for that period of time, I was a market leader in the country of doing corporate sporting dinners. And during that time, I mixed with my heroes, as you well know. Yeah.
Yes. And so if we just kind of move out, obviously, we'll touch on some of the finite detail on how you sold a little bit later on. But I'm just keen to look at if there has been a fundamental difference in the way you now approach ORS, where ORS now has got a huge team behind you that support you. Has that kind of changed the way you look at your business?
Not really. What I try and do is I employ probably about 35 people within the group, and I work on the theory. If I can get the best out of those 35 people, I can literally sit in the corner and twiddle my thumbs. And man management is possibly one of the hardest jobs in any business. Getting the best out of your people. And if you can do that, that's, for me, that's most of the battle.
So I just want to pick up on something there where actually you sit in the corner twiddling your thumbs, and don't get me wrong, we'd all like to be that, but how have you been able to get to that point where you aren't the person in your business that has to sign off everything or be all over everything is probably the right phrase. How did you get to that point, and did you find that quite hard?
Trust and empower people. You know, you employ people to do a job, give them the tools to do that job. I'm on top of the numbers, and you know, I have management accounts every month. You know, within a week of month end, so I can see how well we're doing in terms of sales. I know exactly how much we're selling each day, so I can see the month building. So I know if we're doing well and if we're not. But unless you know, to my mind, if you employ people, give them the power to do the job that you've employed them to do. And in that respect, that allows me not to sit back and do nothing, because I work quite hard. But what it does do, it allows me to concentrate what I want to do. And you know, the people I pay to do what, you know, to what they want to do.
And Chris, does that then resonate with what Karl was saying about empowering people? Does that then resonate around you putting in, as a risk manager, putting in those tools and those processes to facilitate that, so that actually Karl knows that if somebody within his business suddenly steps away for whatever reason, there's enough in the process and documentation that someone else can pick up and run with it.
So I'd use that trust, empowerment, and I think what Karl described well was oversight. So there's a bit about, and I call it spidey senses. So it's, you know your numbers every day. You have a process. So we would talk about having processes in place that ensures that you can trust people, you can empower them, because empowerment is an abdication. Some people think they'll go, oh, okay, over to you, your responsibility. That just abdicates. If you, empowering people is within a structure, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the oversight bit is, if the numbers aren't quite right, you're going to have a conversation, aren't you? Just to go, look, you know, you're in charge of how we deliver this. All I want to know is give me confidence that these numbers are stacking up the way I need them to, so I have confidence in the way it goes.
Yeah. And just to bring this kind of first section to a close, this is probably a very simple yes or no answer. If the business owner, and we've all been there, is chief salesperson, operations manager, decision maker, chief bottle washer, have they built themselves a sellable business, or just, to use my opening line, a busy job?
So I'd say yes, they have. If you use Karl's first example, so his first business, really lean, 2 people. So you can be, you have to be at the centre of that world.
Yeah.
If you want a scalable like the second business, the answer's no. It would just be a busy job.
Yep. And
I
agreed?
agree with that, 100%. Yeah.
Fabulous. So then, Karl, obviously you've been through this in terms of selling and buying. If we just look at, we'll park the exit for a minute, we will touch on that, but when you looked to buy ORS, I know that you were bored, obviously that was, you needed something to do, but what did you look at that made ORS the one that you went, actually that is a business that's got some legs that I can do something with?
When I bought it, I didn't know anything about office furniture, but I understand the mechanics of buying something and selling it. There was no manufacturing involved, so that was a massive attraction. But I know how to buy and I know how to sell. So those 2 things, it could have been anything. It could have been, it just happened to be office furniture.
Yeah.
And the opportunity just happened to be at the right time and the right place.
Yeah. And so when you had that, when that opportunity presented itself, what was the first factor, those key things that you went, actually, has this business got some tangible things that you could build on?
Well, yes, I mean, the turnover at the time was about £1 million, and I thought I could grow that. I understood the mechanics of buying a piece of furniture and selling it for more. There was about 15 employees, so it was quite a nice tangible asset, or tangible business I was buying. I overpaid for it. My bank told me I overpaid for it, but my need at the time for employment and to do something overpowered that. But no, it was a nice, clean business, and I sort of understood the mechanics of what I was getting into without understanding office furniture. But within the business, there was people that do understand.
Yeah, so
furniture.
I guess that made it a little bit easier to buy and, as you said, overpay because there were already a team that were there running, and technically you were just going to build on what was already there, which I guess makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
And Chris, then if we just flip it then from a seller or into that buyer arena of, Karl looked at it probably with a little bit more of a heart and a personal need rather than a business transaction. I think that's probably fair. Yeah. So if it was a buyer and we were doing things, dare I say, by the book, what type of things would you advise around sustainability of that business when a buyer's looking at that overall business rather than just the numbers?
Yeah, so I think the stuff that Karl said is really resonates with me as well, in terms of, if you want to describe your business from a risk point of view, selling the passion, what it is, what it offers, how clean it is, I think that sort of stuff to describe your business is really important, because you then attract people who are have a passion for it and have a feel for it, but also the mechanics of it. Because if you can describe it well, people will go, right, I understand what the business is, what value I can add, and where I can take it. I think the bit, and I've had experience with 3 people recently who've, one's tried to sell a financial or merge a financial company, taken them 3 years to do it because they haven't got systems and processes in place. My view is, like particularly the software we have, is you build something that's got all the structure built in. So you can look at the finances, through yourself, and that's understand the numbers and where it's going to go. Ours would be describe the business and then describe the structures. So if you understand business continuity, or you want to understand there's meetings daily, weekly, monthly, you could actually dock into them really easily. So what you can then see is you're buying a very structured business. You know how much you want to be involved or not, but it's really clean. And the mistakes I've found people recently is 3 years to do something is because they had to build all the processes to show somebody. The second one was even just getting a loan to buy somebody out. Took a long time because the bank wanted lots of stuff. If they'd got this in place, you just give them access to your software and go, this is how we run. Call it and then look at it and go, okay, I've got the passion for it, but I've also know I've got the mechanics for it. I know exactly where I can add to it. So I think you need to cater for both, because people will buy with a heart, won't they? Very few people will buy just because of
it's more than a business transaction, isn't it?
Yeah,
More than a
but I think you have to
transaction.
describe your business to be able to understand your risks, to be able to understand how you put some structure in place.
And if we then look at, we've got the systems, we've got a little bit of passion, a little bit of interest in that business. Were there any things, Karl, and I suppose it comes back to a little bit the numbers, that you really wanted to understand were there, so that on day one you would pick up and you were revenue generating?
Well, the business was already there and the people were already there. The previous owner just exited, so he left on the Friday and I turned up on the Monday. So in theory, the business carried on, and that's what happened. It carried on. And at the time, I knew nothing about office furniture, nothing at all. But what I did know a little bit about is motivating people and trying to get the best out of people. So
did you do, sorry Karl to cut across you, but did you do sort of any, I'm going to call it financial due diligence on things like, were there consistent predictable profits?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so you looked at that, you'd look to see had they got any major contracts, and I guess where I'm trying to position it is thinking about, if we're going to build a sellable business, so we've looked at it a little bit from a buyer's perspective, but if we're going to flip that and go, well actually I need to prepare this for sale, what sort of things would you be looking for that, as a buyer, that I need to put in and make sure are there at the point of me going, I want to exit?
So go on.
Well, we did our due diligence, of course I did. I wanted to make sure I was buying a bona fide business, that the numbers I was being told verbally were accurate. So yes, due diligence was done, and but as I said to you, if it was purely on a financial transaction, the bank said, Karl, you're overpaying for this business on the numbers that were provided. But my need was greater than theirs.
And then, and I suppose just to kind of bring this little bit to more of a, I'm going to call it not a close, but I want to move on and touch on what kind of sparks the need to sell, I suppose, and what you put in place. But if I said to you, what would reduce the risk of a buyer, or what would a buyer want to see that reduces their risk in that business, aside from, I'm going to pick it up and carry on with existing staff, what stuff would you be looking for?
So I think Karl gave the perfect example in terms of, in the events business, that was you, wasn't it? So what the big risk is, when that person leaves, even if you give the black book around all the contacts you've got, the whole heart of that business goes. If you can, someone leave on a Friday, you join on a Monday, and it still works. So the thing I'd be looking at is, what's the implication of the person who's leaving on that business? So that's the bit about, you talked before about that founder who is integral to the business. That's the biggest risk, I think, taking that person out of that business.
And I guess, is that one of the things, Karl, that you've kind of, whether it's subliminally done with ORS compared to the events business, is tried to make sure that when ORS scaled, and obviously it continues to scale, that you're actually not a key cog, that if that cog's not there, somebody could look at it and go, well, I can still buy that.
ORS would survive without me.
Yeah.
And the fact that it makes it more valuable to somebody looking at it. If I was literally the kingpin and every single decision was made by me on the business, well, you're sucked in. You're in the business, aren't you?
Yeah.
I but float on the edge, and I know that if I took 6 months off, the business would survive and flourish. And I've specifically done it like that for that reason. Not that I'm looking to exit, because I'm not.
Yeah.
But one day, well, all businesses are worth more if the main owner isn't key to that business.
You just add lots of value, don't you, because Karl looks at the numbers and understands that.
Yeah.
Being positioned, so someone gave me some great advice once about if you're at that level, you should be looking up and out. So you should be looking at opportunities to grow that business. So your spidey senses do some light touch stuff here. And you go, right, day in, day out, I trust, empower, oversight. Here now, how can I grow it?
Yeah.
That's the difference. In it.
And Karl, can I just pick up just one little bit that just picked up? Obviously, you've gone from being in a very small team in the events business to now one of a team of 15 when you started and whatever you're at now in terms of staff. That transition to relinquishing, for want of a better phrase, responsibility, was that quite easy or quite difficult in those early days where you got maybe a little bit of financial collateral at risk?
Very easy, actually, because I knew going into this business, the office furniture company, that I knew nothing about office furniture.
Yeah.
So I was sort of relying on the people around me to sort of teach me. So yes, while I had a financial risk, it was a calculated financial risk, and I knew that if the business performed as I thought it would do, that risk was well worth taking.
And I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
And all business is risk, Paul.
Yes, it is.
At varying degrees, you know, and that's what makes us business people. You roll the dice.
I love that phrase, roll the dice.
But I think there's a bit of that calls it there, which is perfect, that people, that they equate risk as, I've got to have a risk register, I've got to make slips and falls, health and safety.
Yeah.
Every part of your business, in every part of the day, is the risk, and you're constantly managing, where do I put my time, who do I speak to, do we grow the sales department because we grow it, do we help another factory or another retail outlet because we know this is likely to happen based on the numbers we've got. And I think that for me, to describe risk as a whole system is the perfect way to do it, because then it sits in your daily business rather than being this boring thing that people go, oh, I've got to write a risk register. It's boring.
I can't imagine Karl's ever written a risk register, to be honest.
But I bet you, if I sat with Karl for an hour, because we talk about simple in and simple out.
Yeah.
So as a exec, what you need to know is, are your spider senses met? So am I giving you information that gives you enough clarity? At the front end, your staff need to know 3 things they've got to do, whatever it is, and that's that vision of, I sell this, I do this, this is the dream we're selling. In the middle can be all the complexity. So people like me can sit there, people like you can sit there, crunch the numbers, do the risks, do all that stuff. Karl should never ever touch a risk register, should never ever touch a risk business continuity plan, but should be integral to how it feels, because it's got to be delivered the way you want to. But you can do it that way, because you get people who are good at it, do the detail. The people who are the leaders and the front end just need to know what they need to know to manage the risk.
Brilliant. Right. So I think in that respect, I think we've seen enough around what makes it sellable. So I think what we're actually now going to do is look at what are the real options when I've built this business and I then decide my time is right to sell out and move on to something else, or there might be other factors that come in. So I guess my question, or I suppose I'm going to position this with, is selling the only option we have when we build a business?
So if I can explain our journey at the moment. So we started off and it was going to be a consultancy business to do specialist risk advice to people. And you know, we've got organisations overseas we work with and police forces. What I found was I wanted to build a consistent business that would give me a regular income. And then we'd also got this technology arm. So what I've done is we've split our business into 4. So we've got a business risk division that gives us subscription-based services, some consultancy, SME market. So that's my day in, day out regular income. I've got a tech company, which is my hobby, things I do, I enjoy doing it, but it's getting out of my head into a system, consultancy arm, and we've got Martin's Law. The way we've structured it now, I can sell any one of those independently. So if I just want to go off and do consultancy work, and you know, the fact I could sell the business risk division helps me.
Yeah.
So I think people need to really understand what their businesses are and be able to really define them, because you can then sell bits of your business and keep the bits you like.
And I agree, and to be fair, we have lots of conversations with our clients about what is the end point for you. Is it selling? Is there a succession plan where there are the next generation that are going to pick it up? Is there a management buyout that we need to be thinking about? For us as founders, of which obviously we're all one of those, or business leaders, there's a little piece of actually thinking about what does that look like.
Yeah.
And I think once you know what it looks like, that helps you shape all the systems we need to put in, because actually there are, we've all come across them, and in various walks of life, and we actually look after a few of them, where what we would consider, and without being rude, lifestyle businesses. There is no tangible value in that business when the business owner decides, I'd like to retire. That business kind of dies with them. Yeah. But where you've got people that are building something with a team and and everything that goes with that, those are the ones that you start then looking and going, well, what is your plan?
Yeah.
And Karl, I'm just going to pitch something at you. Having sold one business and grown another, do you look at the growth of ORS and potential other opportunities differently now that you've been through a sale and a purchase of a business?
Yeah, I do. You know, I'm 62 years of age.
Never.
You don't look that old, Karl.
And
42,
I don't want to retire.
Yeah.
I don't want to retire. I'm enjoying working, and I have options. I can sell the business. Yeah. You know, we sell new and used office furniture. Sustainability is at the forefront of every business mind.
Yeah.
And we're literally at the forefront of that. One day, I think somebody will come in and make an offer and buy ORS. I've also got a son in the business.
Yeah.
So, although he's only just joined, he potentially could take the business on, or I could sell it to the employees, or I could have potential management buyout. Not thinking any of that at the moment, but I have got options.
Yeah.
It's a tangible business. It's well run. There's no borrowing.
It's putting that infrastructure in, isn't it, that actually says you've got all of these different options, but because you've got that infrastructure in place and you're not that key cog in the business, it means whichever route you look to take, there's minimum upheaval, isn't there? There's absolute...
There would be no upheaval if I sold the business and departed. There'd be no upheaval. It's a well-run business. It's well-run, financially managed. Got good stock holding. It's a simple business to understand. There's no manufacturing involvement in there. So no, it's a well saleable business.
So
sorry,
go on.
I think the interesting part for me is it's clear Karl went through a process of, so like, for example, we don't employ people, we use associates. So very early on we sat there and worked out what our principles were that made this business best for us. So like you said, not being a manufacturing business is something you said a couple of times, which is really important to make it long term. The fact it's environmentally sound is a good thing. And I mean, the thing that I would sort of say to people is do two things. The first thing is have a set of values that you want to work to, and have an accountant. So you've helped us through this journey of I started a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
What I realised was, initially, the lifestyle, it was going to go with me. When I finished, it was going to go. I was just going to have a bit of fun with it. I realised there was a market we could move into. So I've kept my lifestyle business, and I'll still do that. You know, we're going into the Malaysia market. I'm doing some interesting stuff. I get to do lots of that stuff. But I've also created businesses that sit alongside it that are sellable.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit about, you know, involve your accountant. You know, we've grown with you.
I'll pay you later. This is not about, but yeah, it's put the right people in the right places doing the right things.
When we first started with you, it was a case of, okay, Meg's going to do the sort of accountancy bit, I'm going to do that. We then realised we could grow stuff because there was an opportunity. Having conversations with you and constantly sitting down about what do you want from your business, and we do it every quarter. We just keep going, say, is this what we want? How do we want it to go? What do we want to do? And it just becomes a really easier process because it takes all the pressure away.
Yeah.
And having that independent person who sits there and goes, actually, that's not a good way to do stuff. You know, you cut stuff down, don't you?
And I think, and thank you very much for the praise and that. And I think Karl's probably in a slightly different place where he's got a trusted team around him because that growth has probably meant Karl is and Karl, please tell me to shut up. But Karl's probably evolved to have all of that in-house with the trusted team that both he inherited and has then continued to grow on because it's probably a little bit more finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
Karl, I'm intrigued to understand, when did you start to think about exiting the events business, and was there anything that you thought, I need to put that in place before I go?
Okay, I used to organise corporate sporting dinners, and I started the business in 1991. Around the year 2000, I'd used at a particular venue, I'd used Jack Charlton as my guest speaker for about the fourth time. And I thought to myself, I can't keep recycling the same old people. And every single dinner I did was selling out. And I liken it to, you can run a car at 6,000 revs, but you can't do it forever. And I just remembered I was working in Solihull, the St John Swallow Hotel. My master of ceremonies that day was a guy called David Trick, who played rugby for England and Bath. And his good friend was a guy called Gareth Chilcott. Now, Gareth Chilcott was a very well-known tour operator. He was got loads of event management companies. He was a lot bigger than me. Yeah. And I just happened to mention to David, I said, can you have a word with Gareth? Would he be interested in buying my business? The weekend came and went, and he phoned me on the Monday morning and said, Karl, Gareth's not interested in buying it, but I am.
Oh, wow.
And I said, right, okay. So we met up, and I said, I want this for it. And I gave him a figure. It wasn't a huge amount. But all he was buying was a filing cabinet full of names. Yeah. I used to work from an office this size at the top of my house with one employee who was out most of the time. And he said, I'll give you that for it. So we did the deal. Within 2 months, I'd sold the business. And when I delivered the business to him, there was 4 filing cabinets, 4 drawer file with names, because it was all manual, did it all manually. Yeah. I said, there you go. And off he went. And I was tied in. And at that point, as I said to you, it's sort of like giving you a baby across. Yeah. And my passion for it sort of went virtually straight away. Wow. And I delivered it to him. I worked for him, or advised him for a couple of months, which I was contracted to do. But after that, off I went. And
so no real plan in terms of I'd got to build that business ready to go. It was an opportune conversation.
Yeah, it was an opportune conversation. In reality, if I hadn't had that conversation, would I still be running now? Probably not. I don't know. He bought it from me, and I don't know if you can remember, in about 1997, the bank crash came along and saw off a lot of hospitality and saw him off.
Wow.
So he bought this business from me, and it lasted 5 years.
But he probably got paid back on it, let's be fair.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. He's still around. He still talks to me.
Well,
David.
Obviously a little bit of payback. Yeah. And then, and Chris, I think if we just flip that then ever so slightly, because like I say, I think you come at this at a slightly different angle. If somebody's thinking it is time to go, what stuff should they be looking to make sure is in place that suddenly just mean it's ready to go with that minimum upheaval, like Karl inherited a team, but what other stuff should be put in place?
So my experience is lots of people are exactly like Karl in terms of they get an opportunity and they go. And I think we're dealing with some, decent sized turnover businesses, and they've survived for a long time without these structures in place. So a lot of the challenge for them is, well, why do I need to do some of this stuff? And the reason that I give them is it helps them to make that emotional exit from the business as well as the exit from the business. And when that opportunity comes up, so we build into our software having some risk management plans, working out standard operating procedures, where even like how do you open up the office, if you're poorly or Jodie's poorly or whoever, what do I do? So it's just some of the basics of, if I want to set up an event, who do I call? What do I ask them for at the event? How does this work? That logistics little bit, but it shouldn't be hard work. In this modern world, you can get people to talk it out. You can get people just to explain their processes, but it's got to be simple. It's got to be straightforward. And it's got to be a little bit, how do you take what's in Karl's head and put that on a bit of paper to help people avoid some of the mistakes they probably will make if you haven't been able to give that to them. But you've got to make it easy. You've got to make it simple to do. And you've got to make it, like the stuff we're talking about now is, how do you do it over a 6-month period? Not sit people down for 6 days and go, get it out.
Yeah. If we were looking to exit, I suppose there's a little bit of an accounting piece here. What sort of stuff should we be making sure financially, are in place to make it easy for a buyer? So obviously you've done both.
Well, I would make sure your numbers are correct first and foremost. You might say, well, that's simplistic. Well, it is simplistic. You need to, your financial management systems are in place, which will give your buyer confidence and comfort that the numbers you're telling them are true. But I would suspect you will come across quite a few businesses where the numbers are all over the place. Yeah. And they couldn't tell you whether they make a profit or not.
Yeah, and that was one of my others, was to understand that yes, numbers on a page mean something, but actually how is that profit protected, for want of a better phrase? How do we know that profit isn't going to go when you as the business owner go, which is what we came back to at the very start, about making sure the leadership in the business isn't all things to all parts of that business.
Okay. So I think there's 3 things. So it's your numbers being right, confidence that the person who is telling you about them knows those numbers, because then you know they are right and what's going to go on, and then what they're forecasting they're going to do that can be done without them being in the business. So you might say, I've got a book for the next 12 months. I do these events over the next 12 to 18 months. They're all set up. I know where they're going to go. You're giving them a book of 18 months worth of things, aren't you? You're confident you know your numbers and the numbers being accurate. I'll go tick, 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 great.
So I think what's come out is there's very much an element of gut feel and risk around that wanting to buy or thinking it's time to sell. But actually beyond that, we're talking about making sure that there is an infrastructure in place, both around the leadership that's looking to exit, but also some proof that that business doesn't need the owner to continue to thrive.
But I think they have to be on a page as well, though, Paul.
Yeah.
You have to be something someone picks up and goes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
This, even like just drawing out that journey that goes, right, when someone comes to me, this is the appointment, I then book that, I then do that, I then do that. Because people want things simple, don't they? They don't want a 60-page document. You could explain your business in 5 pages. So why would you write 60 pages?
Yeah, I get it. Right, so going to bring this sort of episode to a bit of a close, but I've got a couple of questions, one for each of you. So Karl, I'm going to go with you first, because obviously you've done the whole, I've built something, I've sold it, and I'm building again. So if there was something that you went, actually I wasn't quite sure that was right, next time and I'm pretty sure as an entrepreneur there will be a next time. If you were building again but thinking about an end in mind, what's the one thing you would probably do differently?
I would probably, this time round, because bearing in mind my age, I'd have somebody to work alongside me.
Yeah.
Who can then take that business, learn how I do things, see how I react to situations, and be a mini me.
Yeah.
I've done it by myself, but if I had a mini me, it means that person can run that business in my, and I could perhaps have a bit more time.
Yeah, share a little bit the load brilliant. And I get that. And sometimes I think that takes a little bit of honesty to go, no, I did it perfectly, when actually...
We all know what our strengths and weaknesses are. One of my weaknesses is the minutia, the day-to-day running of a business.
Yeah.
It's not what I don't like it. It's not what my forte is. It's not my skill set. I like getting the best out of people who can do that.
Brilliant. And then Chris, if there's one action that you would encourage anyone that's tuned in today to take to increase their future business value, what would it be?
So I suppose the biggest bit of feedback I'd give people is get over yourself. Get rid of your ego, and because ego will kill your business.
Yeah.
It's about understanding your strengths, things that people are better than you at, stuff, not think the whole world has to revolve around you.
Yeah, so put the right people in the right place, doing the right things.
Yeah.
Fabulous. That's absolutely brilliant. That brings us to the end of this episode of Giving You More Than Numbers. Huge thanks to Chris and to Karl for sharing honest insights into what building a business with an exit in mind really looks like. Ask yourself this week, are you building income or are you building an asset? If this episode had made you think differently about how it ends, please like, subscribe and share and leave us a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Giving You More Than Numbers.